Hello everyone, this is Chantal from Gluten-Free Cooking123.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make ablama. Ablama is basically a Mediterranean stuffed zucchini bake, and traditionally it's made with Asian zucchini. Now before I came to the United States, I didn't realize they were called Asian zucchini because we've had them all over the Middle East. But that's what they're called over here. They're kind of grayish color, they're smaller, much smaller than the regular zucchini and that you see in the stores. Now I don't have those, and it was a little bit difficult for me at the beginning to get used to the taste and texture of the zucchini squash or the American European style zucchini, but you could still make this dish with it and it will still, my cake is done. And it will still taste good. In fact, that's how I've been making it for many years. So let me show you how to do it. So I have here some English zucchini. You could use yellow zucchini if you want to. The taste might be slightly different. I've never made it with yellow zucchini before, but I'm using this green zucchini right now. The first thing we're going to do is just slice the tips off and any imperfection, like right here. Honestly, that's not a big deal. It's just a dry spot on the zucchini. Okay, and then I'm going to slice it in half the long way. After you do that, you grab a spoon and take the inside, the core, out as much as you can. You don't have to do that. I've done it also where I didn't take the core out, and you kind of like, and after you bake it, you just squish it a little bit and then fill it. If you don't want to, if you want all the zucchini in there. Oh yeah, I forgot to say, preheat the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit before you start this process, because you're going to need to bake these zucchinis before we bake the actual dish. Like I said, traditionally this is made with the gray zucchinis or the Asian zucchinis, and what you would do with those is you would core them, don't slice them in half if you are using those, and you would core them and then you would fry them for a short time just to get them ready for the next stage. I don't like to fry the zucchini because it absorbs a lot of oil. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to bake them. I just cover them with a little bit of olive oil and then we're going to bake them after we finish coring all these. I'm going to continue coring the rest of these. I don't know if I'm going to use all of them. We'll see how much I end up using. When I'm done with that, I'll get back to you. I'm going to line them over here in my pan. So I cored all of them, not all of them. I have here about 5 zucchinis that I've used, and they're kind of squished together, but that's okay because once they get baked, they're going to get softer. I'm going to cover them with some olive oil and season them. I have some olive oil right here that I'm going to use to baste them with. I'm using a pastry brush to do that. You could also do that by hand, which I've done before. And I'm going to do that on all sides. Let's just do the top first and then we'll do the bottom. And as you can see, I left about a quarter to half an inch of the rind, the inside, in contact so that they can actually hold themselves when we bake them, so that we can put the stuffing in. And this is sort of like stuffed shells, but without the cheese. I suppose you could put cheese on top. I don't see why not. I like it to be light. It's a healthy dish. It's comforting, and usually, traditionally, it is served with Mediterranean rice, which I also have a recipe for that. I will put a link for it in the iCards. I'll also put a link for it in the description box below. And the recipe for this zucchini bake, or ablama as we call it, will also be in the description. But if you want to eat it as a low carb option, you could just have it without the rice, or maybe you could serve it over cauli rice. You don't need a lot of oil, just enough to kind of season them with it and help them to get baked evenly. I think I'm going to pour a little more oil in there. Growing up, this wasn't one of my favorite dishes just because it was so oily, because like I said, traditionally they fry the zucchinis in the oil. But after I started making it this way, I really like it. It's light, it's delicious, it's comforting, it's healthy, and I think you guys will like it too. This one accidentally broke while I was coring it, but that's okay. Now I'm going to quickly season them with some salt and pepper, and we're going to pop them in the oven for about 10 to 15 minutes, or it depends how long it takes them to get slightly tender. We don't want them to be completely cooked because we will be baking them a second time. And just eating the zucchinis like this baked would be great. I guess I'm hungry right now. So I'm just going to pop them in the oven for, like I said, maybe 10-20 minutes. It depends how long it takes them. Some zucchinis take longer than others to get baked, so we'll see. I'll let you know when they come out. And I wanted to mention also that don't throw away the zucchini core. What I like to do is I saute it a little bit in some olive oil, and I save it in the freezer for whenever I want to make maybe an egg omelet or a dish. You could also use it for zucchini bread, but you don't want to put it in the freezer like this, because when you take it out of the freezer, as it's sitting in the freezer, it's still decomposing. And when you take it out, all you end up with is just water and a tiny bit of zucchini. So saute it or blanch it before you put it in the freezer. Now, while the zucchinis are getting baked, we are going to chop some onions and prepare the stuffing. We're going to need about 2 cups of onions, chopped onions, or a large onion. Depends how much it takes. You can put as much or as little onions as you like, but especially if you want to make it low carb. But I like onions, so I'm going to put quite a bit in here. I'm going to chop half of this onion with the rest of the onions. And to this I'm going to add a pound of ground beef, if it wants to come out, and a tablespoon of minced garlic. Now we're going to take this to the stove, and then we'll add the seasonings after we brown the beef and cook the onions. We're going to brown the beef, and I'm going to start it on high heat, and then I'll reduce it as the pan gets hotter and the beef starts browning. I could have put just 1 onion, but I felt like putting a little more, so that's what we're doing. Okay, so as you can see, this is getting hot, so I'm going to reduce the heat to medium, and I'm going to continue to stir it as it continues to get cooked and break up the beef. And I just checked on the zucchini, and they still need some more time. 10 minutes have passed already. I think they might need about 20 minutes or so, especially because they were in a cold fridge, so I think it will take them longer to kind of warm up and start getting cooked. You could also add pine nuts to this stuffing if you like, or any other kinds of nuts. You will notice that this stuffing is used in many Lebanese dishes, like in sambousek and a lot of other stuff. It just varies slightly in the spices that you might add to it. Or you could add the same spices even, but it depends how you like that dish specifically. But even though it is the same stuffing, the flavor of the dish itself varies from one dish to another. So what you could do is make the stuffing and put it in the freezer and use it for whatever type of Mediterranean dish that you want to make that day. It doesn't look like there's a lot of fat in here, so I'm not going to even bother grating it. It's just a tiny bit of fat. Whatever, it adds some flavor. What we're going to do now is we're going to add the spices. I'm going to reduce the heat as I grab my spices. So we're going to put a teaspoon of salt. This is a 3/4 teaspoon, so I'm going to put a tiny bit more. A 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. 1/2 teaspoon of allspice, or 7 spices.
What is this delicious meal now?
And 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon. I'm going to put a little more, like I said, because this is a 3/4 teaspoon. There we go. In my recipe I don't say to add parsley, but this time I'm going to add parsley because I feel like it. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of parsley, and we're going to mix all this in. And I have the heat on low right now. You don't really need to continue cooking this because the onions are translucent, the garlic is cooked, and the beef is cooked. As soon as we mix in the spices, we're going to turn it off. We're going to turn off the heat and take it off the heat. Okay, it looks good. I'm going to turn off the heat and move it off. And now all we have to do is just wait for the zucchini to come out of the oven for the next step. The zucchini looks tender, and I'm going to take it out of the oven, and don't put it on the hot thing over here. Now we are going to stuff the zucchini with the stuffing that we have made. And I left my oven on because we are just going to put this back in the oven once we are done getting it ready. And we're just going to put the stuffing inside the zucchini boats. Now some of the stuffing is going to fall off, and that's okay. We're going to be eating all of this anyways. Just going to go around first and fill every one of them, and then I'll fill them some more if I have more stuffing. And the zucchinis are slightly tender, but they're not like overly cooked. You know, they're still firm, because if you cook them until they're super tender, they will be super mushy when you bake them the next time. If you want them to be even firmer, you could just bake them for 10 minutes instead of 20, which is how long it took to bake these. This way they will be a lot firmer for you at the end. Looking and smelling good. Okay, for the next step, we're going to put the sauce together for this delicious meal. I'm going to add a can of crushed tomatoes, and this is a 28 ounce can. So I'm going to open up this can, dump it in here, and then we need 1.5 cups of water that I'm going to put in here so that it will kind of swish the leftover tomatoes around here. I'm using hot water just to speed up the process a little. And because it's close to me. Then we're going to add in 1 teaspoon of pepper, black pepper, 1 tablespoon of dried parsley, and I'm using a 1/2 tablespoon, so putting 2 in. I don't have dried basil, but I do have some basil that I froze from my garden with some olive oil. And I'm going to put that in the microwave and then mix it in with this stuff over here. Did I say 2 tablespoons dried basil? I meant 2 teaspoons. So I have these cubes of basil. I put in some olive oil. I'm going to put it in the microwave for maybe like 30 seconds just to melt it, and then mix it in. We also need a teaspoon of dried oregano and some salt. to taste. Okay, I'm gonna add this in. And this adds olive oil to the sauce too, which makes it even better. Now we're just gonna mix all this in without splashing. Trying not to splash. I'm gonna taste it and see if it needs anything. Perfect. Now we're going to pour this over the zucchini, but we have to be very careful because we don't want to disturb the stuffing and move it around. So I'm just going to try to sort of, whoops, while I splash everywhere. Carefully pour it everywhere, kind of in between them. Oh, this is going to be delicious. This also reminds me of zucchini lasagna. Good, I'm just going to shake it a little bit here, just to make sure that the sauce goes to the bottom. Ow, this is hot. Shake it up a little, make sure the sauce goes down to the bottom. Now we're going to put it back in the oven for 30 to 40 minutes at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. You want to do this to kind of warm up everything and continue to cook the zucchinis a little more. And like I said, if you want, you could put some cheese on top if you like. I like it the way it is. And while it's in the oven getting baked, I'm going to work on getting the Mediterranean rice ready because that's what we serve it with. It just came out of the oven. It's bubbling, it's hot. The rice is still getting ready, but I am going to take a little bit and show you guys how it looks like. The texture and all that stuff. If you want to see what the Mediterranean rice looks like, it's basically, like I said, I'll have the link in the description box and I already put it in the iCards. Let me show you how it looks like and taste it. Cold this morning and now it's way too hot. If you want the sauce to be a little more soupy, you could add more water. Hot, 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 steaming hot. So that's how it looks like. It smells so good. And the zucchini is still firm. It's tender, but it's firm. It's not overcooked. Let's bring it closer to you so that you guys can see. See that? It's still holding its shape. It's not mushy. Oh, I'll take a bite. If I can. It is steaming hot, literally. It'd be even better with the rice. I think I put a little bit too much black pepper on the zucchinis, the fresh grounded one. It's a little spicy, but that's okay. Can't wait to eat it with rice. The sauce is delicious. The zucchini is delicious. The stuffing, all of it together is just amazing, and especially over Mediterranean rice, it'll be just super, super awesome. So I hope you guys try this recipe, and I hope this video was helpful to you. And if you are new to this channel and would like to see more of these videos, hit the subscribe button and the bell to receive notifications of whenever I upload new videos. And share this video with your friends and family so that they can also learn how to make delicious gluten-free food and Mediterranean food. And if you like this video, hit the like button so that others also can see these kind of videos and they can learn how to make delicious gluten-free food and Mediterranean food. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next episode.